Department of Defense to run solar storm blackout drill during Antifa riots this November. The U.S. Department of Defense is planning to conduct a solar storm blackout drill on November 4th, the same day Antifa planned to incite a civil war. According to the National Association for Amateur Radio, the Department of Defense will run communications interoperability on November 4th aimed to simulate a total grid collapse. Stockboardasset.com reports, explained by Army Mars Program Manager Paul English. This exercise will begin with a national massive coronal mass ejection, even which will impact the national power grid as well as all forms of traditional communication, including landline, telephone, cell phone, satellite, and internet connectivity. In July, we warned about the U.S. government quietly preparing for a massive coronal mass ejection with the passage of an executive order coordinating efforts to prepare the nation for space weather events. Here is a snippet of Section 1 of the executive order. Space weather events in the form of solar flares, solar energetic particles, and geomagnetic disturbances occur regularly, some with measurable effects on critical infrastructure systems and technologies, such as the Global Positioning System, GPS, satellite operations and communication, aviation, and the electrical power grid. Extreme space weather events, those that could significantly degrade critical infrastructure, could disable large portions of the electrical power grid, resulting in cascading failures that would affect key services such as water supply, healthcare, and transportation. Space weather has the potential to simultaneously affect and disrupt health and safety across entire continents. Successfully preparing for space weather events is an all-of-nation endeavor that requires partnerships across governments, emergency managers, academia, the media, the insurance industry, nonprofits, and private sector. Back in April 2017, we wrote an article titled "Yesterday's Broad Power Outage Likely Caused by Geomagnetic Storm." While everyone thought terrorism was to blame, we correctly pointed out that large power failures in major U.S. cities was due to an intense geomagnetic storm registering 8 to 10 on K Planetary Index. EarthSky.org provides an easy understanding of what is a coronal mass ejection. A CME can launch 1 billion tons of plasma from the sun's surface into space at speeds of over 1 million miles per hour. Every so often, the sun burps. But unlike myself, when the sun burps, it doesn't so with the power of 20 million nuclear bombs. These hiccups are known as coronal mass ejections, CMEs, powerful eruptions near the surface of the sun driven by kinks in the solar magnetic field. The resulting shocks ripple through the solar system and can interrupt satellites and power grids on Earth. Back to the exercise on November 4th, 2006, are they saying? The U.S. Department of Defense headquarters entity will work with the U.S. Army and U.S. Air Force Mars organizations and the amateur radio community to request status reports for 3,143 U.S. counties. During the exercise, communication frequencies will use HF, NVIS, VHF, UHF, and non-internet linked amateur radio repeaters. In addition, Army Mars Program Manager Paul English said, "We want to continue building on the outstanding cooperative working relationship with the excuse me, and the amateur radio community, English said. We want to expand the use of the 60-meter interrop channels between the military and amateur community for emergency communications, and we hope the amateur radio community will give us some good feedback on the use of both the 5 MHz intertop and the new 13 MHz broadcast channels as a means of information dissemination during a very bad day scenario. Full report from the National Association for Amateur Radio. Okay. And this was dated here, October 24th in 2017. Bizarrely enough, this was first reported by Rob Dew of InfoWars. The U.S. Department of Defense training exercise will occur on Antifa's Day of Rage across the United States. On refusefascism.org, a post titled November 4th, it begins, the Trump-Pence regime must go, has more than 33,000 shares on Facebook. The post explains what the group's intentions are during the Day of Rage. November 4th, it begins, the Trump-Pence regime must go on November 4th. We will gather in the streets and public squares of cities and towns across this country. At first, many thousands declaring that this whole regime is illegitimate and that we will not stop until our single demand is met. This nightmare must end. The Trump-Pence regime must go. Our protests must grow day after day and night after night, thousands becoming hundreds of thousands and then millions, determined to act to put a stop to the grave danger that a Trump-Pence regime poses to the world by demanding that this whole regime be removed from power. Read and sign the entire call here. The bottom line, the United States government is quietly preparing for a major space weather event to paralyze communication systems and energy grids across the entire country. As a citizen, you're not allowed to know this knowledge, and frankly, you will not be prepared. Only the government will be. The writing is on the wall of what is coming through an executive order and Department of Defense drills. No wonder public trust with government is at historic lows, because you're not allowed to know the truth. Simultaneously, the wealthiest families who own mega corporations in the United States are plowing millions into their proxy armies called community organizing groups. Let's just hope a coronal mass ejection doesn't occur when these severely misguided folks are protesting. I don't know what to make of it. I'm going to look into this more, but this is insanity. So I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention because I just stumbled on this by chance. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for watching.